Thank you for joining us on This Week in Turkey. I am Murat, Türsan. Tonight, Turkey torpedoes Sweden and Finland's NATO memberships. According to reporting from Reuters, Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu causes an embarrassing moment. We'll have former ambassador and Medyascope contributor Selim Kuneralp back on the program to get his take. Turkey's shadowy private military company SADAT is in the headlines again. The opposition protests the demolition of the Atatürk airport, and multiple concerts and events in Turkey are cancelled, critics citing government oppression. Our main story tonight, Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu has been making the rounds. Cavusoglu met with Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Wednesday to discuss the U.S.-Turkey strategic mechanism, providing further hints that Turkey and the Biden administration may be serious about repairing relations, despite staunch anti-Turkish stance from the House and Congress. But that's not all that Cavusoglu got up to this week. Cavusoglu was in Berlin last weekend for the NATO Leadership Summit. No doubt, everyone has heard by now that Sweden and Finland have finally formally applied for NATO membership. But Cavusoglu says, not so fast. For a candidate state to be admitted into the alliance, votes in favor have to be unanimous. And Turkey is threatening to shoot down the country's accession if it doesn't get its way. And according to reporting by Reuters, not only was Cavusoglu an obstacle, he apparently also caused quite a stir in the meetings, allegedly raising his voice at the Swedish Foreign Minister Ann Linde and making things, quote, embarrassing. So, after its tireless efforts to mend the relations in the region, is Turkey wasting what little credibility it has built up? Selim Kuneralp will be with us in just a little bit to answer that, but let's go to the details first.
Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held the first meeting for the U.S.-Turkey strategic mechanism in New York on Wednesday. In the meeting, parties discussed developments in Ukraine, East Mediterranean, Caucasus, and the Middle East. During the meeting, Cavusoglu also made statements on Sweden and Finland's NATO memberships. Cavusoglu said, "It is also unacceptable for allies or countries that want to be candidates to support terrorist organizations targeting us. It's not just political support. For example, Sweden also supplies weapons, claiming that they are providing these weapons to fight ISIS." Stating that the USA should get past the CATSA sanctions against Turkey, Cavusoglu said, "The United States must also cut its ties with the PKK and YPG in Syria." Cavusoglu was also in Berlin last week for the NATO Leadership Summit to discuss Sweden and Finland's NATO memberships. Meeting with his counterparts from other member states, Cavusoglu allegedly caused quite a stir when he raised his voice at the Swedish Foreign Minister Ann Linde. An unnamed diplomat spoke to Reuters and alleged that Cavusoglu was bringing too much drama. For us, it was a historic moment, and yet Cavusoglu said he was irritated at Linde's feminist policy. The source went on to say, "We were trying to understand what our Turkish colleague really wanted, and that it was embarrassing." According to Bloomberg's reporting, based on 3 senior Turkish officials, the Turkish side has several demands for a favorable vote for Sweden and Finland's accession to NATO. Sweden and Finland had imposed an arms sales embargo on Turkey after Turkey launched a military incursion into northern Syria back in 2019. According to the report, Turkey wants the arms sales embargo by Sweden, Finland, and the EU to be lifted, and wants back into the F-35 program it was ejected from last year.
So it appears that Turkey doesn't vote for free. Despite Cavusoglu allegedly not being clear about Turkey's asks in the meeting, the Turkish side is definitely after a quid pro quo. That much is clear. But how is Turkey going to fare in that fight? We spoke to Ambassador Selim Kuneralp just a little while ago to shed light on that matter. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us again. Let's start with the Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu's meeting with the Secretary of State Antony Blinken to discuss the U.S.-Turkish strategic mechanism. Now, ever since Turkey bought the S-400 missile defense system from Russia and in turn got booted out of the F-35 program, got hit with the CATSA sanctions, relations between Turkey and the U.S. have been cold, to say the least. However, in the last few months, we've been hearing rumors and indicators that the Biden administration might be warming up to Turkey. For example, the State Department released a memo that was favorable to the sale of F-16s to Turkey despite congressional opposition. And Secretary Blinken has softened his rhetoric towards Turkey as well. I think the meeting could definitely be called an indicator of that. So, in your opinion, what's going on between U.S. and Turkey? Are the relations actually thawing, or are we jumping the gun making that assumption? Your thoughts?
I think that things were more or less on track for the sale of not just the F-16s, the modernized F-16s, but also some equipment that would be used by existing planes. So there was a sort of a two-step process, as I understand it. First, a relatively minor project of selling this equipment. And then if that went through the Congress without any difficulty, the idea was that the administration would thereafter apply to Congress for permission for the sale of these modernized planes. Things were going fairly well. As you said, there was this letter that was sent some time ago to Congress expressing the intention of the administration to go ahead with this without actually putting forward the formal request. But this was, I think, intended to test the waters and see what the reaction of Congress would be. So things were more or less going on well until, of course, there was this crisis created by President Erdoğan's objection to the accession of Finland and Sweden to NATO. I think that this came at a rather bad moment because there's this intensive lobbying going on at the Congress in Washington, where I suspect the main argument of the Turkish side will be that Turkey is a reliable member of NATO, and that it needs this modernized equipment and increased number of planes in order to fulfill its commitments under NATO, particularly in light of this the war which is going on between Russia and Ukraine. So I think that was probably one reason why the administration was proceeding with this request, and then suddenly this whole thing of the crisis over NATO has blown up, and it will have weakened the argument of Turkey that it's a reliable member of NATO, because of course it's now looking like it is objecting to the accession of these two countries, Finland and Sweden, which everybody else in the alliance considers as something that would strengthen the alliance. So it all happened at a very unfortunate time. I don't know exactly what is going on, what is going to happen from now on. As you know, particularly in the Senate, the administration, the US administration, doesn't have a clear majority. It's a 50-50 kind of situation. So every single vote counts. And so this rather unfortunate crisis doesn't help, it seems to me.
Absolutely. And let's move on to the European side here. Foreign Minister Medya Cavusoglu was in Berlin last weekend to attend the NATO summit concerning Sweden and Finland's memberships, of course. Now, according to reporting by Reuters, Cavusoglu caused quite a stir during the summit, allegedly raising his voice at the Swedish Foreign Minister Ann Linde. And according to Bloomberg, 3 other Turkish officials later had to clarify Turkey's asks because Cavusoglu allegedly wasn't very clear. Reportedly, Turkey wants arms sanctions lifted ties cut with PKK and YPG, which Turkey considers terrorist organizations. And it wants back into the F-35 program, which really seems like a long shot. So Turkey isn't even asking for F-16s anymore. They're asking for the holy grail of fighter aircraft. So we can't really confirm these stories because they are coming from unnamed sources. But if true, it appears that Turkey is taking a rather hostile stance against the West yet again. Now, no other member, as you said, is doing anything close to that. Leaning on your diplomatic experience, has anything like this ever happened before? Has a nation ever held a NATO membership vote hostage to get something out of it? And do you think this is a wise strategy for Turkey?
Well, I mean, as you say, this is a rather strange situation. I'm not aware of this kind of thing of having happened before. And indeed, as far as Turkey is concerned, ever since NATO started enlargement, that is after the end of the Cold War in the 1990s, and in the space of just a few years, the membership doubled from about 15, 16 to 30 as it stands now. And hopefully, if this conundrum over Sweden and Finland is settled, it will reach 32. So all this has happened fairly quickly, and Turkey has always been very supportive of the enlargement of NATO. And indeed, the Finnish president was on record the other day as having said that he talked to President Erdoğan just about a month ago on this question, and President Erdoğan was very supportive of the accession of Finland to NATO. And then suddenly, the idea must have come to someone that the Turkish support for the accession of Sweden and Finland could be moneyed against something else in a manner that the alliance is not very familiar with, and particularly the West is not very familiar with. And since then, you've had different statements from different people. You've had the president speaking, then his foreign policy advisor, Ibrahim Kalın, then the foreign minister, then the ambassador in Stockholm, who spoke to the Financial Times. And each of them said something else, something different. For instance, the ambassador in Stockholm is on record as saying that the main objective of Turkey is to ensure that the Swedish authorities refrain from having contacts with the Kurdish movements in North Syria. Then the president has mentioned expulsion of certain Kurds established in Sweden, some of whom are apparently Swedish nationals, which legally makes their extradition quasi-impossible, I expect. Mr. Kalın has mentioned the veto presence of exiles in Sweden. And then, of course, you've had lots of commentators saying that Turkey's problem is not so much with Sweden and Finland as such, but with the United States, the F-35s, F-16s, and things like that. So you've got a very confused kind of situation, which people abroad find a bit difficult to assess and interpret. But all this gives the impression that things are being handled in a very amateurish way, and that is not the first time. When it comes to the foreign policy of this administration, of this Turkish administration, to my mind, it's very regrettable. I've never seen something like this before, but I keep seeing things that I've never seen before happening in Turkey, and I regret it very much. But that's how it is.
Agreed. Needless to say, every day in Turkey is an unprecedented day. So, yeah. Mr. Ambassador Kuneralp, thank you for being able to join us tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you, and thank you for making sense of it all yet again.
Thank you very much, Murat, for inviting me, and Hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely, sir. Pleasure. And in other news, SADAT. SADAT is a private military firm in Turkey, the first of its kind. It has been called Erdoğan's shadow army. Started by former Brigadier General Adnan Tanrıverdi in 2012, SADAT calls itself a defense consultancy firm, advising militaries around the world on a slew of things like counterterrorism, special forces training, demolitions, and a lot more. Its founder, General Tanrıverdi, is known as a highly controversial figure, often called an Islamic fundamentalist. Tanrıverdi was forced into early retirement from the army back in '96 and has been known to have ties to President Erdoğan, despite the president denying those ties. He was formerly appointed to the president's advisory group, but was later excused from the position. The infamous mob boss Sedat Peker, hiding out in Dubai, had accused Sadat of supplying weapons to al-Nusra Front, also known as Al-Qaeda in Syria. Last week, the main opposition party CHP chair, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, made a surprise visit to Sadat's headquarters to demand answers. Of course, Kılıçdaroğlu was denied entry into the building. Well, Kılıçdaroğlu might not have been able to get in, but Medyascope did. Medyascope did an exclusive interview with Sadat's chairman and the general's son, Melih Tanrıverdi, to see if he would corroborate President Erdoğan's assertions that he did not know Sadat's founder, General Tanrıverdi. Here's that story.
Brigadier General Adnan Tanrıverdi was forcibly retired in early 1996 due to the lack of positions available after serving in the Turkish armed forces for 30 years. Tanrıverdi later went on to work for Asder, an organization made up of commissioned and non-commissioned officers, discharged from the military after the 1997 quasi-coup. Tanrıverdi launched SADAT in 2021 and ASAM in 2013. SADAT is an acronym for Defense Consulting, but also means Descendants of Prophet Hassan in Arabic. Someone appointed Adnan Tanrıverdi to the Presidential Advisory Group, only 2 days after saying that he had no connection to him whatsoever. Medyascope spoke to Chair of SADAT and General Tanrıverdi's son, Melih Tanrıverdi, on the retired general's relationship with President Erdoğan.
General Adnan, if I remember correctly, it was back in 1992. He was the commander of Kartal Maltepe Mechanized Forces Division. Back then, our esteemed president was in AKP's provincial division. I don't exactly remember what his title was back then, but they had already known each other back then. Our esteemed president, when he was doing an inspection of the troops. Erdoğan requested a meeting with him, and that's how they met. Of course, as for how he got to the advisory position, General Adnan works constantly, even after retirement. He never thought that he would take it easy and take care of the grandkids after retirement, because he's a man of serious experience and insight, just like the rest of our team.
And on to politics. The government is demolishing the decommissioned Atatürk Airport, and the opposition is not having it. The airport was close to commercial passenger flights in 2019 after the completion of the larger Istanbul International Airport and was totally decommissioned earlier this year. The government now wants to knock it down and turn it into a national park, but the opposition is doing what the opposition does best, opposing. This is mostly because who is doing it and what the airport is called. The airport is called Atatürk Airport, named after, of course, the founder of the republic and a symbol of secularism, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. So, to knock down something named after Atatürk is a bridge too far for secular Turks who have been living in constant fear of losing the secular republic since AKP came to power some 20-odd years ago. Protesters gathered in front of the airport to rally and, of course, got backlash from the ruling government. But what nobody counted on, however, was backlash from Ümit Özdağ, the chair of the anti-immigration Victory Party. Özdağ drew attention to the fact that Kılıçdaroğlu, now against the demolition, had claimed that it was actually CHP that came up with the idea and that AKP had stolen it. Which is true. Kılıçdaroğlu did say that. Özdağ posted a video of him saying so. Now, Kılıçdaroğlu responded by calling Özdağ an opposition in name only, and that this was nothing more than a smear campaign against him, though he didn't actually address the matter. Well, looks like the opposition's got opposition. CHP now doesn't only have to contend with AKP, but it looks like it also has to contend with the Victory Party as well. Let's go to that story.
Last Saturday, heavy machinery and trucks entered the airfield to demolish 2 runways of Ataturk Airport in Yeşilköy, Istanbul. Members of the coalition party İYİ Party gathered in front of the airport to protest Monday night, and members of CHP gathered on Tuesday morning. As protests raged on in front of the airport, Minister of Environment and Urbanization Murat held a press conference and criticized the protesters. Our nation knows this mentality very well. It's CHP's outdated mentality. They are only opposing just to oppose. They call our projects a waste and a disgrace, hitching their wagons on so-called environmentalists, and they baselessly criticize our projects. Istanbul Provincial Chair Canan Kaftancıoğlu announced on Monday that there would be a rally at Ataturk Airport. Kaftancıoğlu spoke at the rally saying, "Saudis or Qataris, whoever is buying this property, under a CHP government, we will hold whoever takes a single penny out of the pockets of the poor accountable." CHP Chair Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu also criticized the demolition of the airport. Why are they in such a rush? Could it be because the Gang of Five invested a major portion of their ill-gotten gains they stole from the people into the airport? Are they trying to liquidate their investments and hide it offshore before the elections? Is it to quickly get rid of the airport? To anyone who is involved in this is not something you can get away with by saying, "I was just following orders." This is treason, and you will be held responsible. Anyone involved is committing treason. And to the contractor for the demolition, we will pay special attention to you. Victory Party Chair Ümit Özdağ wasn't impressed with CHP, however. Özdağ protested on Twitter. Apparently, Canan Kaftancıoğlu called CHP members to Ataturk Airport. This is what you call two-faced and shameless politics. So, you are going to tell people that AKP tapped our phones and stole the airport idea from us, and then turn around and protest. Go to hell, you enemies of Ataturk. Don't try to fool patriots. Kılıçdaroğlu responded to Özdağ soon thereafter. I'm the most smeared person in Turkey. This is not going to change, and I'm used to it. However, I advise that our citizens not be fooled by those who appear to be from the opposition, but are actually psychological warfare actors propped up by the government.
And in domestic news, Kurdish singer Erdoğan's concert at the Kocaeli province was canceled, as well as the internationally famed K-pop band Mirai. And these cancellations came back to back, but the pandemic wasn't cited as a concern. As a matter of fact, no concerns were cited whatsoever. The municipality that canceled the show for the Kurdish singer alleged improprieties by the event organizer, but the event organizer had receipts. Literally, the organizer posted receipts on Twitter to respond to the municipality's allegations that the paperwork hadn't been filed. The organizer says that they were indeed filed and paid for, and the municipality made zero attempts to contact the organizer about any of this. So it led many to speculate, was the event canceled because of its very nature? If you know anything about Turkey, you'll know that the ruling government isn't very liberal, and conservative Muslims aren't exactly thrilled about concerts, but it might actually go a little bit deeper than that. Erdoğan is a Kurdish singer, and her songs are in Kurdish. You might not know about any of this, but there was a time in Turkey's history where Kurdish was completely banned. The very existence of Kurdish ethnicity was denied by the government even. When AKP came into power in the early teens, it had made promises to rectify the past atrocities, and for a while, it looked like they were going to. But it is common for AKP to call foe those they once called friend, and the government's current policy is once again harsh, to say the least. Of course, since no reason was given for the cancellations, we can only speculate. Well, the opposition lost no time on the matter, of course, and Kılıçdaroğlu chimed in once again. Let's go to that story.
Derince Municipality in Kocaeli Province canceled the Kurdish singer Erdoğan's May 20th show this week. The municipality gave a vague reason for the cancellation in a tweet saying, "After a thorough investigation of the matter, the event organized by a private company that is to take place in our municipality has been canceled as it has been determined to be inappropriate." The cancellation comes at the heels of criticism launched at the municipal government for allowing the event by Misvak magazine, known to be close to the ruling government. After a slew of backlash online, the municipal government responded to the ticket holders stating, "The event has been cancelled as the organizer of the event has failed to acquire official permits and sold the tickets in an unlawful manner." The event organizer, Gergedan Productions, responded to the allegations by the municipality by posting the receipt for the payment it had made to the municipality for the event and said that they were made aware that their event was cancelled through the municipality's tweet. At the same time, the Culture and Tourism Ministry also cancelled the show for K-pop band Mirai. The event was held in honor of the 65th year anniversary of Turkey and the Republic of Korea's establishment of diplomatic ties. The ministry made no comment for the cancellation of this event. Soon after the cancellations, main opposition party CHP chair Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu injected himself into the discourse and commented on the matter. "Music at night is forbidden. The youth loves K-pop, but it's forbidden. Kurdish music in AKP municipalities is forbidden. They should just enact a constitution that forbids fun. We were born free and we will die free in this land. Understand this, AKP." CHP MP Nurhayat Altıcı Kayışoğlu protested the moves by the ruling government by singing in English and in Kurdish in parliament.
Every way that I can, I'll cry, I'll die, make you mine, oh yeah.
We can sing this, but we can't sing. That's it. Thank you.
And with that, that's it for us on This Week in Turkey. I have been Murat, Türsan, and thank you for joining us.
Türkiye'nin sivil, bağımsız, özgür ve çoğulcu bir medya ortamına ihtiyacı var. Medyascope 20 Ağustos 2015'te bu ihtiyacı karşılamak üzere yola çıktı. Ama yolumuz uzun. Bu yolculukta bize Patreon veya YouTube'un katıl butonu üzerinden katkıda bulunabilirsiniz. Destek verin, sizinle güçlenelim.